Hey everyone, and welcome to Just a Bit Outside, presented by WaFd Bank. Join a best bank at wafdbank.com. I'm Ludtka, and we've got a great show for you as we wrap up 2020, including part 2 of our conversation with the legendary Kenny Mayne. We go behind the scenes with SportsCenter and dive deep into one of my all-time favorite Seahawks, Marshawn Lynch. But to start things off, let's check in on our headlines we're tracking for the week. First up, the Seahawks are the NFC West Division champs for the first time since 2016. Seattle closes out the regular season Sunday against the 49ers. Several key members of the Husky football team have announced that they will be returning to Montlake in 2021. Those include leading rusher Sean McGrew, tight end Kate Otten, and pass rusher Zion Tupuola-Fatui. And lastly, Shoreline native Blake Snell will be returning to the West Coast. It's reported that the Padres are finalizing a deal with the 2018 American Cy Young Award winner. The lefty is still owed over $40 million over the next 3 seasons from a deal he originally signed with Tampa Bay. And that's all we've got. We're wrapping up on checking in on the top storylines of the week, brought to you by WaFd Bank. Get free checking at a best bank, wafdbank.com. As you may have seen last week, we had a wonderful conversation with the longtime ESPN SportsCenter anchor and Kent-native Kenny Mayne here on Just a Bit Outside. It was so good, in fact, that we couldn't cut it short. So here's part 2 of that interview. Joining us now on Just a Bit Outside is the one and only Kenny Mayne. Kenny, I appreciate you taking the time and chatting with me today.
Absolutely. You got a solid backdrop there. We have one of Gretchen's trees in the house set up, so it's Christmas time.
Exactly. I was going to say, you beat me on the festive scale for sure. If I had another area where you could see my tree, I would do it. But since I've locked this in, I'm kind of just like, okay, I'm a little protective of my space now. I'm like, this is where I work. I've got my backdrop. It's like I was just telling you before I started the record, 9 months in, I'm finally figuring it out.
Yeah, I'm not very good with the technology, although I've done so many calls this way. Like I even made a commercial for ESPN for The Last Dance, most of it from home on an iPhone. And without my daughter teaching me how we do whatever it was, WeTransfer or something, there was no way that material was getting sent up into space. So yeah, we've all had to learn to do things differently.
I know the exact commercial you're talking about, and it was one of the best. It got everybody so excited about probably one of the biggest productions of 2020 that so many people will, I think, look back on and look at it like a highlight, of their year. Kind of on that note, I mean, you've been working this entire time. How have you had to pivot, and like how has your work life, I guess, been affected by trying to cover sports during a pandemic when half the year there wasn't sports?
Yeah, in the beginning, well, a lot of it was not working. We ended up, at nighttime, we usually have like 3 different sports centers in the evening, and the late show either back here or out in LA with Stan and Neil, and they just cut it down to where there was just one show, and whatever 2 people did that one show, and with an absolute skeleton crew. I mean, it's so strange. ESPN complex is this sprawling, gigantic, it's like a Boeing complex in Renton or Everett or something. It feels huge, and it was completely empty. It was really bizarre in the beginning because we were all, we still are, right? There isn't exactly a great national plan still, and we're just all trying to go day by day, like make it through that day. I've never lived more day to day, I think, than ever. I think that's the biggest thing. But in the beginning, it was a lot of, all right, let's see what friends we have on. Let's call Jamal Crawford. Will he talk to us? Let's see if Dale Earnhardt Jr. will. And they were really good, fun interviews because we found out how they're doing. With Jamal, I'm a huge fan and friend, and was rooting for him to get a deal. We interviewed a racetrack announcer from a little track in the middle of Oklahoma. How are you guys making it? So we just did a lot of those kind of made up stories where most nights the world hands us the show, right? There's 25 different games and so-and-so signed a contract and this and that happened. And it's kind of easy to just fill out what really happened. In those days, we were having to create shows out of nothing. Now we're kind of in that middle ground of it's kind of normal, but it's kind of not. So we just carry on day to day.
Well, and if anyone follows your career, they know that you are a man no short of creativity. You have come up with, I think, some of the greatest storylines and stories and features of our time when it comes to sports journalism. It's been so amazing over your decades now at ESPN. Do you ever look back and think like, wow, what a career this has turned into, of the different places you've been and the different opportunities you've gotten from it?
I haven't done that yet because I still have two girls in college, so I'm not ready to look back at it. But no, and I'm still having fun doing it. I've done so many different things there. I'd say my favorite, well, sometimes it's just my favorite's whatever I'm doing right now because you're into that. But I've done just about everything there except for calling games, which I'd love to do as well. But like the Wider World of Sports series we did for a few years, we went all over the world and found unique sports from other lands. And I mean, that was crazy. It was such a fun few years. Went to Ireland and did something called Irish road bowling. They take this iron ball and throw it down a street, and the other guy throws it down, and they have a one-on-one match between two villages who can throw an iron ball 1.25 miles the fastest, or the least number of strokes, I should say. They count it like golf. Oh God, we did everything. We did, some conventional ones that we weren't all that hip to, like cricket. We did this thing called the Palio in Italy. It was a horse race in a town square. You can look up some of those on the internet, I think. But yeah, we had an amazing time. But I still like what I'm doing, other than I was explaining before we started. 1 o'clock Eastern is when we're taping this, and I'm just kind of coming to my senses from working last night.
And again, I appreciate you taking the time. I'm hoping I'm bringing the energy from the West Coast right now. I'm sending it your way on the East Coast because I don't get the 1 a.m. really late nights here with working for Q. We get the like midnight sometimes. Usually it's on the road games for Seahawks games or special things that we'll get those late nights, but I totally get it. I have to bring up my all-time favorite story that you've ever done. And because I've always wanted to talk to you about it. Dave & Buster's, Applebee's with my guy, Marshawn Lynch. Love that man. Loved that piece. Will you take me back to that? Like, how did that whole thing come about?
Yeah, he's one of my favorites too. And yeah, I love how beloved he is in Seattle and Oakland, right? Like his two West Coast cities and many other places. But there was just something about his work ethic that everybody just appreciated. And it's funny because Seattle people kind of saw how real he was and what he was really about. And then on a national perspective, he was this guy that doesn't talk to the media and he has tattoos, okay, so, yeah. So I was fortunate to get to meet him his rookie year. He was in Buffalo, and I should give the credit to my producer on that one, Tom McCollum, who really came up with more of it than I did. A lot of times one of us would kind of write a starter to one of these fictional football stories you were talking about from way back when on Countdown. And Willis McGahee had been the running back at Buffalo, and he left, I believe he went to Baltimore, right? And he kind of dogged Buffalo on the way out of town, just made it sound like it was this podunk place. He said, they got nothing going on there. They got a Dave & Buster's and an Applebee's, and don't get me started on the women. And, so he had this very, degrading commentary about it. And who knows, maybe he was kind of half kidding, but it read as though he's slamming the town on the way out. So we basically took what he said and had Marshawn, the rookie, experience Dave & Buster's and Applebee's. And I can't remember if did we just recruit, or did the team tell us, oh, these girls will play the part? I can't remember how we even had the young women involved in it, or maybe we just met them at the restaurant. I have no idea. But next thing you know, Marshawn's Dave & Buster's and Applebee's and having the time of his life. It was fun. And we kind of fed him some lines like we would do in those stories, but oftentimes guys like him kind of had he quickly adapted it. Now I'm going to kind of say it my way, which he did, and he did it perfectly. And I just hit it off with him from that day. So I would catch up with him as the years went by, and we did a few other things. I've been involved with a handful of things with him. My favorite one with him, and by the way, I think that's still the most viewed YouTube thing in Buffalo is the Marshawn.
It's probably because I click on it daily.
It was fun. I was at this event in Seattle. I can't remember, it was 3 or 4 summers ago, 4 maybe. And it was a kickoff for the Special Olympics event that was coming up. And Marshawn had left the Seahawks at that point. And yet there he was, because he had committed to being at that event. And they didn't really, he was on the list, but he probably won't be here. He's, we think he's in Oakland at this point, whatever. And Marshawn rolls in with his guys, and I wish everybody had the chance to meet him on a different level than they see him just with the interviews. I ain't talking, you know what I mean? there's a lot more going on. He's a smart guy too.
I could not agree more. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've heard a version of that story of, we put the request out to see if Marshawn would be at this charity thing or this community thing, and we didn't know, and then he always comes through. Like, he's a man of his commitment and his word, and it's just, it's had to been fun. I'm sure you've met and covered everyone imaginable on the Sun, but it's got to be fun like him, someone like him who maybe isn't seen the way he really is, like you said, on a national scale, but like obviously playing for one of your hometown teams and just everything, all the good he brings into the world and joy.
I mean, he was doing that program. I think he's still doing it where they were distributing cell phones, digital phones to homeless people, because in this modern society we're in, like, if you don't have a little bit of technology, unless you have it all set up and you're out in the wilderness and you're happy there, you need that connection. I remember one where I even sort of apologized in the lead into a story. It was on Tyler Lockett, and I took him out of my boat on Lake Washington as a rookie just to give him a tour, and we just had this fun, silly talk about different things. And somewhere in the middle of it, I asked him kind of like who his mentors are early on the team, and he pointed out to Marshawn, and he said he helps me with my 401k. And for some reason, that made us all giggle, like, house. And then after, it's like, why am I laughing at that? Why couldn't, of course, Marshawn probably, he saves his money. There's the legendary story that he never cashes his checks. I don't know if that's true or not, but, he's been wise with his money. That's maybe why he's also able to help fund his Fam First organization and some other things. And then afterwards, like, that was wrong of me, thinking that was a curious thing when, in fact, why wouldn't he lean? That's like his big brother on the team, so I'm sure he gave him good advice.
Aaron Levine joining me now. And Aaron, I seriously could talk to Kenny for hours. I want to let all the viewers know that if you missed part 1 with Kenny, you can check it out at justabitoutside.fox. Now, Aaron, my only regret from this conversation with Kenny is that I didn't actually get a chance to talk to him about The Last Dance.
Well, The Last Dance and the fact that he was a backup quarterback to Randall Cunningham in 1982 all the way to UNLV, and that he actually was signed by the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, there's so much to the Kenny Mayne story. Even the fact that he sent them a note apparently to ESPN when he wanted a job there and said, hey, when you guys have ESPN The Ocho one day, will you guys hire me? And obviously he was one of the first guys to be there, I believe, in the early 90s. So what a great guy, and he does so much for his local community as well. It's so much fun to catch up with him whenever he's back in town.
Absolutely. Totally agree, Aaron. And we've got all that about him, his stint with the Seahawks, the whole story behind that, how he got his start in TV actually here in Seattle. And then Aaron mentioned his charitable work. He has his own nonprofit. You can see all of that in part 1. Again, just a bit outside.fox. Check out that episode. But switching gears, we've got Emerald City Extras, where we dig through press conference sound to bring you little tidbits that didn't make the Sportscast cuts. And today's bites, I purposely chose together because I think it's really important to try and understand people in situations that you may or may not be familiar with. Now, this first one is from Nick Rolovich from a press conference. A little bit, obviously, the team's not playing any longer, so it was earlier this year. But when he was asked about the players getting up for games that essentially in the end wouldn't take place.
This is really the only place left for a young man to get into that warrior mindset and do something they love and get physical and work as a team and do something great. And that there's a mindset prep that goes into that. Not many guys will just turn it on and off. And that can be very crushing, especially two guys who are older in their career, and their opportunities to play are drifting away.
Michelle, you and I completely understand what he's talking about, because how many times have we gotten all revved up before Sportscast to do it from home, and our internet connection goes down, all of a sudden they lose signal, and then the main anchors have to do the Sportscast for us because we can't connect to the station. And
then it usually results in me calling you being like, why is this not working? COVID, I'm not good with technology. But yes, and on the other side of that, I mean, how many times, Aaron, have you and I seen players that are like the nicest guys, you have lovely conversations with them, and then we watch a practice or a game, obviously not during COVID, but in person, and the intensity is just It's amazing. It's incredible. I really think there is a switch there for sure. And now I want to show you this next bite because I think it's just equally as important. It's from Seahawks Jamal Adams, who opened up this year about depression that he was suffering from while he was in New York and how he even struggled earlier this year with some injuries.
The injuries over here is what kind of like changed my life, changed the way I look at it, changed the way I walk life, changed the way, I speak on certain things. I'm very aware, should I say. Those injuries really took a toll on me because it never happened before. At the end of the day, I was down on myself about it, but it really changed my life for the better. And I couldn't have done it with not only my family, but the guys in the building, the ladies as well, just helping me out. Keeping me calm and talking to me, letting me express my feelings, because I think that's what it's about. When you can express your feelings and get it off your chest, have other people see where you're coming from, that's where you can have clarity. So yes, I have been working on myself on and off the field, and I'm gonna continue to get better. But like I said, man, I'm in a different place in life, and I'm happy. I'm beyond happy.
This is such a great perspective, and it's also great to hear from Jamal Adams that, this is a play.
Look, just what Aaron and I were just talking about, you guys. Difficulties with internet connections at home. That's what you get with live TV. We'll try and get Aaron back here in a little bit, but obviously that bite, I think, is such an important one for people to hear, in contrast to the one from Nick Rolovich, because yes, these Seahawks players, these football players, these athletes, male or women, they are warriors. They get into that zone, that mindset. But at the end of the day, when they go home, they are people. They have feelings. They go through a lot of things just like you and me. And always a very good reminder, if not just for this year, but this time of year specifically, that if you're not okay, ask for help. Find someone to listen to you. You're not alone. We all have ups and downs. Well, switching gears, we've got trivia now. And this week we have a very special guest with Aaron. So without further ado, here's this week's On the Clock.
Well, this is a very special week for us because Brandy Cruz is normally interviewing the mayor or the governor or presidential candidates. And we must have caught her on a really slow day because she is slumming it with us. Brandy, thanks so much for coming on.
I'm really nervous. I feel like people have these expectations I'm going to do really well, and I'm about to disappoint a lot of people.
Well, a reminder, you can see Brandy on The Divide every week on Q13 Fox. Today, we are going head-to-head with her on the Clock. Here's how it works, Brandy. Each of us has a minute to answer as many questions as possible. You have to beat me outright to win. A tie will go to the house. I also want to mention that these trivia questions are provided by our friend, the Fish, Jeff Aaron, at Fame Trivia USA. So be sure to check them out at Fame Trivia USA on Facebook. I'm going to give you the honors, Brandy, since you are our guest. I'm going to take my earphones out and I'm going to put headphones on here, and I'm going to maybe listen to some Natasha Bedingfield.
Oh, okay.
Hear that? Starting that up.
Oh, that's pretty loud. Careful about your hearing there.
Oh, first, Jessamine McIntyre is on the line. She is going to be asking you all the questions. So take it away, Jessamine.
Yeah, Aaron really likes to relive his past when it comes to these segments. It's glorious. I get to watch him really rock out, as we can see right there. Okay, Brandy Cruz, are you ready?
Yes, my friend.
Okay, let's go. You are officially on the clock. What is the name of the league that Harvard, Yale, and Cornell all belong to?
Ivy League.
What is the name of the talking tuna from StarKiss advertising for tuna?
I know this. Charlie.
Which NFL team had a defensive line in their glory days nicknamed the Fearsome Foursome?
Steelers.
What is one word answer for the alphabet used by the blind to read and write?
Pass.
What board game has undergone a resurgence because of the Netflix series The Queen's Gambit?
Chess.
Desperately Seeking Susan was a film that marked the film career of the debut singer of what famous singer?
This is pass.
What is the name of the company that has delivered the first of the doses of COVID-19 vaccine? Traditionally, this is the last question you'll get. Which wedding anniversary is celebrated with a gold?
10 years.
Okay, I am going to put you officially on the clock now. What is the name of the league that Harvard, Yale, and Cornell all belong to?
Ivy.
What is the name of the talking tuna from StarKist advertising for tuna?
Pass.
What NFL team had a defensive line in their glory days nicknamed the Fearsome Foursome?
The Rams.
What is the one-word answer for the alphabet used by the blind to read and write?
Braille.
What board game has undergone a resurgence due to the Netflix series The Queen's Gambit?
Oh, chess.
Desperately Seeking Susan was a film that marked the film career of debut of what famous singer?
Madonna.
What is the name of the company that has delivered the first doses of COVID vaccine to the American public?
Pfizer.
Traditionally, which wedding anniversary is celebrated with a gold?
50.
Seattle has Blitz, which NFL team has a mascot named Ragnar?
Rag what?
Ragnar.
Pass.
Okay, that will do it, Aaron. You are victorious. However, Brandy did make a pretty good run at you.
You smoked me.
I mean, it was
Brandy,
6-4.
That's not a smoking. That is not a smoking at all. You did a fantastic, valiant job. I'm glad you didn't beat me, though. But we will have you on sometime in the future. But I don't think I'm going to be going on The Divide anytime soon.
You're welcome anytime.
Well, I appreciate it. A reminder to our viewers, you can check Brandy Cruz out on The Divide on Q13 Fox every single week. Brandy, thanks so much for joining us, and happy holidays.
You too. I had fun.
Again, the answers: Harvard, Yale, and Cornell are Ivy League schools. Charlie is the talking tuna for StarKist. The Rams had the Fearsome Foursome. Braille is used by the blind, and chess has had a resurgence thanks to the Queen's Gambit on Netflix. Madonna made her film career debut in Desperately Seeking Susan. Pfizer delivered the first doses of the COVID vaccine to the American public. Gold marks the 50th anniversary, and the Vikings mascot is named Ragnar. If there were questions about the Seattle City Council, Brandy probably would have gotten me for sure, but we remain undefeated heading into 2021. Michelle?
I've said it before and I'll say it again. Aaron, I'm so glad you do the trivia segment so that I can fully also take credit that, yeah, we're undefeated, but really it's all you, my friend. But Brandy, you were fantastic, did way better than me or anyone else here could have done. Come back anytime. And now if you at home want to take on Aaron and be a part of On the Clock, just head over to Twitter and send a note to Aaron at AaronQ13Fox for your chance to join us on the show. And let's bring Aaron back in now. Yay, we've got you back, Aaron. I know we had some difficulty with internet connection. It was just, I think you jinxed us earlier. But I'm so glad that you're back because we have to hear. Yes. We've got Against All Odds, and we've had a good run in 2020, so let's close it out on a high note.
Yeah, we're actually continuing to kill it, Michelle. I'm waiting for these segments to be picked up by these syndicates that bet millions of dollars every single week because we're doing that well. Let's take a look at what happened a couple weeks ago. We did not have any picks last week. 2 weeks ago, we were 3-1-1, winning with the Chargers and Stanford as underdogs. We lost the Big Ten championship game with Northwestern covering the spread. We pushed with the Chiefs at the Saints, and we won with the Panthers at the Packers. That means we are now 26-15-1 this season. That's just about 62% winners. So this week we're going to go with Alabama laying the 20 points against Notre Dame, Ohio State plus 7.5 points against Clemson. In the NFL, we're going to take the two underdogs. In the NFC East, the Eagles trying to spoil things against Washington, the Giants at home against the Cowboys, and the Rams playing without their starting quarterback, their starting running back, and their best receiver. Give me the Cardinals this weekend, laying 2.5 points in Los Angeles. Just like the Seahawks, we've got to keep that momentum heading into the playoffs. Michelle?
I love it, Aaron, as always. Love your insight. Love to see that we're still kicking butt in that, and hopefully, yay, we can continue on doing that in 2021. Well, that does it for this episode of Just a Bit Outside, presented by WaFd Bank. Join a best bank. A huge thanks to Kenny Mayne for taking the time, and if you haven't already done so, make sure to check out all the amazing work that he does with his nonprofit Run Freely at runfreely.org. Also, a huge thanks to Brandy Brandy Cruz. For Aaron Levine and our entire production crew, I'm Michelle Ludtka saying thanks for watching and Happy New Year.